Did you know around 82% of businesses fail because of cash flow problem? When you're starting off, you want to do the things that you love so badly that you completely forget about cash flow. Now, this was clearly a mistake that I made when I was starting off. Here are 9 essential ways that you can follow to maintain your cash flow and keep your photography and videography business going when you're starting off. As a photographer and a videographer, you're prone to irregular income. And there will be time when there'll be dry patches with no work at all. But if you make a note of these 9 things and follow them, I assure you, you will never have a cash flow problem in your creative business. Create a budget. When you're starting off, it is important to know where do you stand financially.
You're actually in such a crucial and such a vulnerable state when you're starting off as a freelance photographer and videographer that you have to keep a very strict tab on your expenses. So it is recommended that you create a budget and have a detailed budget and keep that intact and keep that as like your holy grail that you'll be following. But we are not doing this budget just to create the budget. We are also doing this so that we can try to cut down on costs. The goal of you starting a business is of course for you to make more money, but also keeping more money will also mean that you make more money.
There are some free budgeting tools that I've linked in the description below. Please make sure to check them out. Separate your personal and business finances. When I was starting off, this was a mistake I made. I would constantly dip into my business savings for my personal expenses. In my case, it was the excessive consumption of chai and cigarettes.
What I personally do is that I've got 3 accounts. One is an expense account, that's what I use to spend money from. The second one is household savings. The household savings account is generally for any of the major expenses that may come up in the future. For example, doctor's appointment. That's not something that I do every week. Number 3 is the business account. So any money that's coming in from the business goes into that account after it has been pitched into the savings expense and the expense account. I make sure to keep a clear record of all the invoices and the bills that are for my business. This is because for tax reasons, when your accountant asks for it, you can always pull it out.
Because you don't mess with the tax man. Now, if it helps, hire a professional accountant. We will get into that towards the end of this video. Diversify your income streams. You would have heard a lot of businessmen give this advice. That is because it's true and it works.
I don't think it's a good idea to niche down from the get-go. You're trying to explore your own skills, try to find out what you are actually good at, what satisfies you, what makes you happy, because we're doing all of this to make ourselves happy as well. Create diversified services for your clients. So, for example, you can now pitch to a real estate client, you can now pitch to a couple who wants to get married. But there is another way. So having an additional job is not a bad thing. I personally feel that it really aids to a lot of things. It might not aid to you getting a lot of work, but this also helps you boost your confidence in terms of, yes, you can upgrade gear now probably. Now you can do a lot of TFP shoots.
Now, if you need to survive in this economy, you need to have multiple sources of income. What's the worst that could happen? You burn out? At least you'll faint a rich man. Manage invoices effectively. When we are starting off, we completely forget that we need a formal and a professional way to ask for money for our talents and skills. Now, delaying your invoices would only mean that you are delaying you getting paid.
I would finish off the film, I just wanted the client to be happy, and then I would tell the client that, you know what, just don't worry about it, I'll send you the invoice later. And then, you know what, they would forget about it. And that's also kind of not their fault. They're human beings, so they forget about the project. Because of me slacking, I become the reason why the payment doesn't come to me. So it's important that you manage your invoices really well. So once you're done with the project, the client is happy with the project, and you're sending the final files to them, send the invoice with those files. So we need to take actions that are already in our control. So pushing for the invoice when the project is finished, and also when the invoice is not fulfilled, following up with them, reminding them that there is an invoice that we sent out to you, when can we expect for a fulfillment of that invoice.
What I would do is keep a copy of the invoice in the project folder of my client, and also keep a copy in the financial year folder. Keeping cash reserves. This point makes me realize how insignificant and how for granted I took my cash flows when I was starting off. I was more of a spend all, save nothing, live life king size sort of a person.
So without a full-time job, still seeking work, it's important that you as a business have cash reserves. I personally would think that if you are solo, you don't have a financial support system, having a cash reserve of 6 months, which means that for 6 months, if you don't get work, this cash reserve that you have, you will be able to survive on it. That is the ideal state you want to be.
Your cash reserves will keep your business at float when you are struggling to keep going in the business. Invest wisely on equipment. The reality is that there's not going to be a single day that the technology isn't good.
When you see other work, you see professional photographers, you see these big lenses, expensive lighting, and you always feel that the work that they are doing is because they have that gear. Rarely people talk about lenses, rarely people talk about what gear they use or what role their gear plays in their creativity. They always talk about inspiration. Focus on creating good work when you are starting at the beginning, because your good work will eventually ensure you good income, because people would like to work for you. You would think that your gear is actually impressing your clients, but a lot of the clients don't care about your gear. They care about the output, they care about the quality of your work, and the only way you do that is by making good work.
The reality is that there is no end to good gear. But if your work is not good, there's no point of having expensive gear. When it comes to gear and equipment, your main goal should be to save as much as money possible and create great work. Negotiate payment terms. Now, I'm a huge advocate for not doing work for free. But if you are doing some work for free to start off, to get your foot in the door, I completely understand it. I have done it myself. But having proper conversations and having proper negotiations around what is the payment they should expect for your services is a great idea from the get-go.
When you are talking to a client, it's important that you negotiate payment terms with them. So it's important that you have a contract. The contract actually helps you to really clear-cut define what your payment schemes are. For example, now I remember when we got our wedding videos done, wedding photography done by this professional photographer from India. He took 50% in advance, then he would take 25% of the rest of the 50% when he starts working on the projects. We would give the rest of the 25% when he would give us all of that. So he had a very clear-cut, defined payment plan for such high capital jobs that he picks up.
The goal with negotiations is that you're making your client feel as comfortable as possible, but at the same time, you're not interrupting your cash flow. Monitor your cash flow. One eye on the craft and the other eye on the money.
Just imagine that you have actually been in the business for a while. Let's think of it as a quarter, like you've been in the business for 3 months and you need to review how you are doing. So it's important that you constantly have a check on where did the income come from, how regularly the income came from, what were the expenses that you made. Now, being said that, I would also like to mention here that it is normal at the beginning of the business where your expenses are higher than your income, but the goal is for us to increase our income so that we break even with our expenses.
You're trying to find the most efficient and comfortable way for the stream of cash flow to pass through your business. Seek professional advice. Now, we are photographers, we are filmmakers, we are artists. You don't expect us to be good at this cash flow shenanigans.
So I would advise that if you find this very, very difficult, to see a financial advisor when you are starting to budget your business and starting to have cash reserves, starting to invest in equipment. When you are starting off, if you find that you are in a spot that is too intimidating, it's important that you see a financial advisor. Now, financial advisors don't charge you money. There are so many free services out there, online services, free services out there that can help you budget better And also they will create the expense. The first thing that we talked about was creating a budget for yourself. They can do that for you if you are feeling intimidated to do it yourself.
Now, after your budgeting, which was point number 1, if you find that there is a bit of extra cash by the end of the year, I would advise you to hire an accountant. My accountant actually plays a crucial role in me managing my cash flow on a month-to-month basis. Having an efficient cash flow is a sign of a healthy business. By having a good cash flow system, you are securing the future of your photography and videography business. You're also assuring to yourself that you'll be doing what you love for a very long time, indirectly meaning that you're committing to keeping your dreams alive. Following this, I assure you that it will make your photography and videography business more sustainable. Thank you for watching this video. Drop in a like and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to know what you should be prepared for when you are starting a filmmaking or a photography business or any creative business, please watch my next video.